think it's time to head into our first story.
Yes, so let us get into that. Next, we have the Valor cap starting at 5,000 Valor.
Yeah, and I think this is also just a good segue to talk about the overall Valor point system now that it's a little bit more settled and we know what it's like. Other than specifically knowing what end-of-run dungeon Valor point values are going to be, which is kind of a pity, because I think that's a pretty big bit of information.
Yeah, it's the kind of thing where if they don't... It's so interesting because it's the details like that that kind of mess with the entirety of the system. Like, if they get that, like, half the value it should be in order to try to drive playtime, then that'll just ruin the experience of most people trying to get back into it. Especially if this is supposed to feel like a revamp of Season 1, like a, oh hey, sorry about that, that was a trial run of Season 1, now we've got the real one, then you've got that situation where they need it to be fast enough that everyone can catch up to...
Yeah.
Because obviously, like, if you're not sure how the gear works, because of everything from before this patch won't be upgradable through the Valor system, which means if you've got an item that's like, say you're running around with like a mid 200s quantum device, if you want to boot that up, you're going to have to go and get another one, which sucks real bad. But you're gonna have to kind of, unless you're currently BIS, which I know there are people who are there, but if you aren't BIS at the minute and you want to play, you will essentially be slowly replacing your gear with new versions of it that you can upgrade.
Yeah, that's definitely awkward. I think there's going to be some people who will see that and think, what? I have to regrind all of my gear? Seriously? But then there's people for whom they'll see that and they'll be like, oh, cool, there's a new system. All I ever wanted to do was a whole bunch of Mythic Plus dungeons. I can now do that and I have a new thing to engage with. Now, I would wonder, is there any way it would make sense for Blizzard to, like, I don't know, pay a certain amount of Valor points, you apply an item to an existing bit of Season 1 gear, and it converts it into one that could be used with Valor points? I wonder if that's something people care about, and I'm totally not saying that because I've got an item level 183 quantum device that if I could in any way upgrade that to 226 using Valor points, I absolutely would. Please, Blizzard. Anyway.
Yeah, no, I think that seems to be one of the cases where there's a lot of reasons they could have said, okay, gear before this point doesn't work from a design perspective, from a kind of, well, we want people to start afresh, we want that stuff, but I think to me it kind of comes across as these items are fundamentally different, like on the back end.
Yeah.
Where it's the same case where, your PvP gear can be upgraded, your Covenant gear can be upgraded. There's probably a flag on those that they can't set live or alter, and they kind of have to...
Yeah.
I mean, as to why they couldn't figure out a way to do that, who knows? But realistically, I imagine it's a case of, we want this done now, so we'll have to do a little bit of dirty work, and people will, it might feel good to some people to go and target gear afresh. So it's like...
Yeah, it's like it could work for me pretty well as somebody who has been entirely focused on raiding thus far, has basically not touched M+, bar like doing, was it +8 Sanguine Depths? We did a few of those were fun hell runs. But yeah, for me, I can engage with this system in a way where it's like, cool, I've got my raid set, I can target some bits of gear for dungeons, go get them up really good, and yes, that'll be a pretty good flow for me. So it's kind of funny because this current Mythic Plus system, it's like, it's going to work better for us as raiders who could then dabble in to Mythic Plus, but may slightly annoy the existing Mythic Plus players who will maybe feel like their past efforts are a little bit devalued, because it's like, yeah, you put in all this effort here, and now the new system is just so much better. Even though there is a gear acquisition problem that they're not going to be super thrilled about in some cases. So overall, it's kind of interesting. And basically, right, to get into the numbers, 5,000 is going to be the initial cap. So you log into your character, you'll be at 0 out of 5,000 Valor points. And that just means you can do callings, you can do Mythic Plus dungeons, till the cows come home. Then that 5,000 cap, 750 will be added to that every week. So just like how it currently works with conquest points, as an example, and that is the overall cap of your earnings That's not the cap on how much your character can actually have on them. That's a maximum of 1,500. And I believe each upgrade costs 250 Valor points.
I believe that is what it currently is on PTR, yes. And
Yes.
that is completely irrespective of item level or anything. It is just 250, 250, 250, which means in order to use your cap effectively, then what you're going to want to do there is get the item level at its highest point initially, as opposed to what might feel good for farming something rare like the quantum device or a specific weapon, which is, you know, blast +2s until you get it. But that'll be less effective with this sort of cap in place.
Yeah. Well, actually, I then even wonder, and this is something I don't know if we have in the docket, but the situation where if you fail the timer on a key, you'll actually get a second bit of loot, but the second bit of loot that you get is a lower item level. That system that they're adding in. So I then have to wonder if that is something that Blizzard have done, basically to say, always do the hardest M+ dungeon, because you know you'll get 2 bits of loot if you fail that timer. Now the second bit of loot is a good bit lower in item level, but I think that would mean, speaking to your example there, if somebody is thinking I'm going to go and farm a quantum device in +3s where I really should be doing a +12, well, if the +12 is going to give you literally double the loot in terms of items if you fail the key, then I wonder if that's a more effective farming strategy. Hard to say.
Yeah, almost certainly. It kind of reminds me of the lesson they learned from Torghast, where they're like, failed states feel bad if you're not rewarded for them in some capacity. So, I mean, if the entire point of having a gear reward system that can effectively scale, and then you're not using it scaling to any impact on the failure side, or sometimes on like the positive side, oh dear, sorry about that, that's like, they have so many ways to use all of the systems they've built, and now if they can actually use them to further player experience a little bit and actually, you know, have it's that case where how many tanks hold a key ransom, because it's like, it's okay, you're going to do it my way, or I don't like this, I'm gone, and that ruins it. Now there's at least a reason. Obviously, I mean, it's still going to feel bad if you take 50 minutes to do a 20-minute key, but it so simply solves a massive problem that they've had for so long.
Yeah, so it's an interesting thing overall, where once this happens, we are going to have a significantly more viable gearing system for all 3 major instanced forms of endgame World of Warcraft. And that's kind of insane to me, because, at least for me as a player, I've felt like the game has been fighting with me for years. And yeah, I've made no secrets about this, as many of you are probably completely sick and tired of. But like, the more that Blizzard have tried to juice up the gearing and do all of that stuff, the more just frustrated I felt. Whereas with this, if it's just simple, you know, for PvE, you get your gear, you then upgrade your gear, done. It just clicks with my head. It's like it sets the parameters within which I can actually succeed as a player. And that means I'm like, oh, cool, that's the rules of the game, and it seems like it's a fair game. Well, then that's a game that I'm going to play, because I can see how it could respect my time. And that's just the sort of situation where, even if it is balanced conservatively and VP gains are pretty low, as long as it feels like it's a fair game and you can't be screwed over, you can push through that and it can be okay. Versus some past systems where you could really feel like your time is being disrespected by the game, and you were really just pulling that fruit machine, you know, pulling the slots. It's not going to feel like that. So overall, I'm feeling pretty good, pretty happy.
It's I think the way to think about this, or at least the way I'm kind of thinking about it here, is now you've got a staircase to climb, you've got a hill to climb, you've got a mountain to go up slowly but surely. I mean, we'll see what they have it for Raid in 9.1, because obviously Ian hinted something. But I mean, in 8.3, corruptions was the lottery, it was the fruit machine, it was a treadmill, because you were just, here I am, I'm going along this, something maybe comes. But now they've went, oh yeah, sorry, there's supposed to be there's a journey. Journeys have like endpoints.
Yeah.
And now they actually have those.
Yeah, and for me that brings up two things. So I got lucky in that lottery that you just talked about. I got Echoing Void on like day one. And I think after that I got Twisted Appendage on a weapon. And that was the weapon I basically was like happy to have in my character, playing a DH at the time. So that system went really good for me, and it still pissed me off. So there's that, and then the second thing is just like that ability to, you know, get a bit of gear and be like, oh, cool, I can take this to the moon by just playing World of Warcraft, that I think is good. Now, there's one thing I'd say.